I was wondering about what it is in the old Monster Hunter games that makes me love them so much. I do like the slower and, in ways, more methodical gameplay that can border on tiresome at times, but I think it has more to do with the world they present. Starting from the very first game, the very first area you visit even. The series presents you with sweeping views that draw you into the world and make you wonder what is out there. The zone loading screen zone approach led to there being a lot of implied space around the functional space that you can actually get to hunt on. And while a lot of the areas might be pretty basic, which did improve with every new release, it was the areas you couldn't explore, the views outside of the bounds of the zones that drew me in and that I remember so fondly. I do love that a lot of these views are often of places you do get to visit by walking through those zone connections. In a lot of the maps, that gives a nice sense of scale. I only really started to have gripes with the environments in the series when we got to Monster Hunter Rise. The zones themselves look great and are fun to explore, but it being a Switch game, it was obvious some corners had to be cut for performance, and that mostly came in the way of reducing the quality of the implied space. On the PS2, with mostly CRT screens being the norm at the time, they could make lavish vistas using mostly 2D assets, and it still, for the most part, worked for Monster Hunter Tri on the V and all the portable games. But with a switch to mostly 3D and better screens, I guess they thought 2D assets wouldn't do it anymore. So the outer areas of the Rise maps are mostly low poly 3D and lack a lot of detail. I know it's basically a non-issue for most players, and not all of the areas are like that, but it did feel a bit sad for me, having enjoyed them so immensely in the past. It was especially obvious with the maps that were remakes, where I could actually go back and compare what they looked like. When I heard that Monster Hunter Wilds was going to have environments that connect, I was quite excited. I knew it wouldn't be that they all blend into one another as fully open zones, that would just require insane scale to make it look right, but no less, I thought that it would at least mean that we get great views every now and then. I played a lot of the open beta, got about 50 hours on it at least, and even found ways to play when they closed it down. Shout out to my resourceful friends. I found Windward Plains to be absolutely gorgeous. I kept exploring the map every which way and looking for the little details, and, of course, admiring the views. I love the open desert near the oasis, from which you can see the other locations off in the distance, with even more of the desert behind you. I love the perch up at the top of the hill near Raydow's nest, as well as the hill where you actually get to fight him from time to time, and the open area near the river was great too. I kept wondering if more of it would open up eventually or not. When the full game released and I jumped into it, I had an absolute blast. Played through all the locales in the first week, spending time just examining them as much as I could. Though, as much as I did love their look, unique functional space, and variety, the other zones didn't quite stick with me as much as the Windward Plains had. I couldn't really put my finger on it for the longest time, thinking that maybe it was just that I had too many to pick from at the time. Decision paralysis and all that. But, thinking back on it lately, I think I figured it out. It's the lack of distinct vistas in most areas. There's a little bit of that near the lake in the Scarlet Forest, and bits and pieces in the High Shard Cliffs, but for the most part, all of the zones have a lot of obstructed lines of sight, making them feel a little confusing to navigate at times, and pretty rarely giving you a sense of their scale. This was likely done in a conscious effort to optimize the performance in the game, as having long sidelines would probably be murder on the FPS with the crazy amount of assets placed everywhere, and stuff going on constantly. I suppose it works fine in the Windward Plains, as it is mostly sand and cliffs everywhere, and you'd be hard pressed to notice the degradation of assets through LOD reduction for further away objects. But it would be a lot more clear in places like the Scarlet Forest, which is full of vegetation. There are some areas with nicer views, like the camp-only Suja, where you can get a much needed view of the Forbidden Lands, But that's also because the actual functional space there is tiny and there isn't any monster AI to worry about. Generally, I do find the game to be absolutely gorgeous when it comes to the art style. The way the different seasons change the environments and the use of light and color is stunning. I even immensely appreciate the less colorful look of some of the seasons that seem to be a sticking point for a lot of people. There's plenty to appreciate about the game. But if I can wish for anything for the inevitable expansion, it would be an area with wider sidelines, perhaps a nice vista or two, and please, please let me swim around in peace underwater outside of that one laggy fight. I don't even really need the underwater combat, just some freeform exploration would be nice. Anyway, hope you enjoyed Wilds as much as I did, and give the old games a try. You can always find some people to play with on the old school Monster Hunter server. Cheers.